that people will choose to live in that intellectual world rather than in this world of shadows. The world of shadows is simple. It's comfortable. It's what we've known our whole lives. And there's a lot of people there who we can join with and are going to kind of form a herd with, if you remember from Nietzsche earlier. People who go into the cave like being there. They join together, and then that's it. It takes an individual, which is very difficult, because if you're that person who agrees to be unchanged, and you agree to go out into the world, now, how do you come back and tell people about what you've experienced? So, for example, if all the people have ever seen, okay, how about this? Someone's never seen a tree before. They've only seen shadows. How do you describe a tree to them? Tall. They don't have, okay.
Green.
They don't have a concept of green, though. They've only seen shadows.
Hard.
Hard. They might have an idea of it, but they're changed, so they've never felt tactile anything.
It's kind of frantic.
Frustrating, right?
Flowy, like on the wind.
Yeah, maybe if they've seen like paper or something like that flow, they can say it's a tall thing that flows like paper. And this is how you would have to do it. Through metaphor, through analogy, through symbolism. This goes back to Jung, and Jung was talking about the collective unconscious. A big part of the collective unconscious is symbolism. Like we began this text by looking at a series of symbols. Like if I said to you, my friend Keith is a lake, we understand intuitively. Oh, you mean he's calm, he's peaceful. Yes, exactly. If I tell you that a person has walked through a forest and arrived at a lake, you intuitively know, through the use of symbols, that a person has gone through a mysterious place, a forest, and they successfully navigated that, and they came out to a place of peace on the other side. Now, if I try to explain that to you and you don't have any idea about what peace is and what mystery is, it wouldn't make any sense to you. So a lot of times we have to communicate through metaphor, through analogy, just to make sense, just to communicate with people. Because unless you've experienced the things I've experienced, that may be the best way that I can do it. And unless I've experienced the things that you've experienced, that might be the best way that you can do it, is to talk to me through analogy, symbols, metaphors. And so now, let's go on a field trip. We're going on a field trip. We're going to go to Brazil. Yes, Brazil. I've talked about the uncontacted tribes in Brazil, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go contact an uncontacted tribe. So we get a helicopter. It's a big one, because it has to fit all of us, although we are a small class. Then we're going to fly to Brazil. We're going to land in the middle of the village, and we're just going to grab the first dude we see and just pull him onto the helicopter. And then we're going to fly away. Right? He's going to be pissed, so I'm going to need you guys to help me. Hold him down. I'll choke him out so he passes out. So at least we have a few minutes now. Anybody here do any chemistry? Good man, at least one. All right, so we'll do the best we can. We're going to mix together something that will knock him out for the flight. So we'll inject him with whatever Seth comes up with. Let's hope it doesn't kill him. And then we're going to fly him back to the United States. We're going to land in San Diego, and we're going to take him to Costco. So we're going to land in the Costco parking lot, and then we're going to wake him up. And he's going to wake up, wake up. And he's going to be surrounded by all of us. And how are we all going to look to this person? Strange. We got people wearing pink. We got people with red hair. We have tall people. We have a person with this, I don't know what that thing is on your head. I don't know what this is. This is like a tree. It's like a canopy on his head, because they've never seen hats before. You know? And we all look different. They're going to think, well, these must be gods. You know? Of course, they'll be right with regards to me. So they're going to look at this and go, he's going to think this is a strange thing that we've picked him up, and we all look different. We don't look at all like his tribe, which is pretty homogenous since they're isolated. And so now we're going to take him and we're going to put him in the parking lot. Now, how does he describe the parking lot?
Damn.
Big.
What?
Big.
Big. And what else? Crowded. How do you describe the consistency of the parking lot?
Hard.
Low.
Hard. Hard like what?
Stone.
Stone. So he's going to walk on a stone. How would you describe this? Like large plot of land. What would an analogy be? What else in nature looks like that? Not like a parking lot, but a big plot of land.
Ground.
What's that?
The ground.
The ground? Yeah. What's that? The field. So maybe we can describe it as a stone field. Okay, so that makes sense. Now he can understand. He can now get an image of what this thing looks like, a stone field. So we walk him across the stone field. We'll make it summer, so it's hot. So he has to kind of, now he sees our shoes, and he sees that there's a purpose for the things that we wear on our feet. He never would have imagined that because he never had a need for it. But now he can kind of imagine it. Now we take him inside of Costco. How does he describe what he sees?
It's like food.
Food. And the food is such that people just give it to you, right? He's walking around, people are handing him free samples of waffles. He's never had waffles before. He's never had someone just like hand him food. Where he's from, you have to go and earn your food, to go hunt things. So we take him over to the cold section where they have all kinds of vegetables and fruits he's never seen before. He's going to have to describe them in analogy for the stuff that he has experienced before. And he's going to be really cold inside of that refrigerator, which of course he won't be able to explain the refrigerator. In short, we've entirely blown this person's mind. This is not something that we ever could have explained to him. It's something he had to experience for himself. Now, we like this guy, so we keep him around, we bring him to class. He does really well, he gets an A. He learns English. In the process, he's going to start to forget his own language, but it's okay, he's living in the US now. He graduates, he goes off to college, does really well in college. Maybe even goes to Harvard. And he graduates top of his class, or somewhere near there. And he gets to go to law school. And now he's an attorney. And so here we are now, 15 years later, he's walking around San Diego, he's got his BMW, he's an attorney, he's got a really nice Armani suit. And then we have our 15-year reunion here. And someone's like, remember that guy we kidnapped? And we flew him over here? Oh, shit, that's right. Let's go put him back. So we're like, yeah. So we find out where he is. We rent a helicopter. And one day he's walking to his Beamer. He's got his briefcase, his suit. And as soon as he hits his car alarm, we jump on him from behind the shadows. Same thing. We wrestle him down. We choke him down. Our chemicals are more refined now because you're a chemist. And we knock him out. We fly him back to his village over in Brazil. We drop him off in the middle of the village. We roll his body out of the helicopter, and we take off. And then this guy wakes up, and think about what he's surrounded by. The tribe again, yeah. He remembers them. It's been 15 years. He doesn't really remember their names, though, and they look different, you know? And so now they're asking him, dude, what happened? Now try to explain what happened from his perspective. We went into a helicopter. Sorry. We went into the belly of a bird with spinning feathers. Okay, got it. They don't understand helicopter. They only understand the spinning feathers. And they went in the belly of it. And then he goes on to explain the stone field that they landed in. They went inside of the stone hut where they had food. People of all different nations. Which that wouldn't work either because he doesn't have a concept of nations. But he's going to do the best that he can to possibly explain it. How high do you think his tribespeople think he is? Yeah. And by the way, even speaking the language, he's going to have a lot of trouble with it because he's forgotten the language for the most part. He's speaking English. And so maybe after some time he can start to reacclimate, but now they're going to say, like, that has been a strange thing that you've been on, man. I don't know what happened to you, but all right. But you know what? You're back. Welcome. He stands up. He's still got his suit on. He's worried about the mud getting on his shoes. They're nice leather shoes. And they say, but you know what? Since you're back, we're going to go ahead and have a hunt in your honor. They hand him a spear, and they go, let's go on the hunt. So everyone just takes off running. So he takes off running. But he's been in America. So he gets like 200 feet down the way, and he's winded. So they start laughing at him, like, keep up. He's like, I can't. Because he's been away from there. He's been in a completely different life. So he's got this spear. They finally come across the deer, and they tell him, all right, it's your celebration, you bring down the deer. So he takes his spear and he just chucks as hard as he can. Things goes boom, 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 hits the ground, nowhere near the deer. Deer runs off. They all start laughing at him. What the hell happened to you, man? You used to be a great runner. You were a great hunter. Now you're wearing these weird clothes that actually get in the way of you being able to run. You're worried about these things called shoes. He goes to take his shoes off, but his feet are really sensitive now, so they're getting thorns and things in them, so he puts his shoes back on. And then they take him back to the tribe and go, what happened to you? When you left here, you were one of us. And it was great, man. You fit in very, very well. But suddenly now you come back and you're useless. You're talking about like stone huts and stone fields and people who hand you things called waffles somewhere. And you're wearing these weird clothes. And he's like, because there's a world that's outside of here. And they're like, whatever. How's that going to help you get deer? How is all that knowledge going to help you get money? I'm sorry, deer. How's that going to help you get a bigger hut? How's that going to help you get all of these things that we want on this world? Remember, huts and deers mean nothing to this guy now. Because he has seen something better. Yeah, he has to live in a hut, I suppose, and he has to eat something. But like all that other stuff, all the material stuff means nothing to him anymore. What matters to him is figuring some things out, getting to the bottom of some things. And so the whole tribe agrees. They make a pact. If that bird with spinning feathers comes back, we kill it. We kill everything on board. Because if it takes another one of us, it's going to bring us back stupid and blind, unable to hunt, unable to live in this world. And it's better to do that than to end up like this guy over here. So the guy has a choice. He can continue to wear his suit and be different from everybody, but they're not going to accept him. Excuse me. Or he can put his old tribal clothing back on and try to go back to the life that he was in before he got picked up by the helicopter. But he can't be fulfilled that way because he knows that there's something else out there. He has seen it. If he hadn't seen those kinds of riches, he could have lived with being poor. But if he had never known about this outside world, he could have been very content in this world right here. So there's something tragic about that. In other words, now he knows that there's something. So he recognizes the tragedy of not being able to get there. But it's also equally tragic if he had never gone, because then he never would have known about the truth, and he would have been living a lie ignorantly. They're both tragedies of life. Knowing that there's something more, and not knowing that there's something more. Also, like knowing that there's something more, but being too afraid to pursue it. We can easily forgive a child who's afraid of the light. I'm sorry, the dark. We can easily forgive a child who's afraid of the dark. The real tragedy is when people, adults, are afraid of the light. And that's what he's encountering here. These people don't want to know what he's encountered. So he goes back to his old life. He talks about it once in a while. People think he's just crazy so-and-so. But at some point, there's going to be a little kid who's going to come along and be like, an outside world, you say? Tell me more about this. Which way did you fly? That way? Okay. He's going to grab a spear and some water. He's going to head out that way. Who knows what he's going to find? But it was because one person got freed, and now more people are going to get freed. And we might say that's a tragedy for the tribe. Kind of is, because the tribe's going to cease to exist at some point. But it's not so tragic for the people who learn the truth. They have the choice of doing that. And this is something that a lot of you guys are going to encounter, man. You're going to go off in life and you're going to encounter something, and you're going to want to come back and tell people about it. People are going to think you're crazy. People are going to think that the world that you're talking about has nothing to do with the worlds that they're familiar with. And there's a good chance they're going to hold it against you for that. In other words, maybe you'll go off to college and you'll learn some things, or maybe you'll just go out after school and read some things. You'll want to talk to people about it. But you won't fit in quite the same way anymore, because you've changed. You've changed. I remember, probably about 7 years ago now, I went and visited back home in Los Angeles. It was on a Friday night. I remember that specifically. I was at a liquor store, probably buying some Diet Coke, and I heard my name. Someone just goes, "Scallon!" And I turned around, and there was a shadow I recognized as somebody. I'm looking at this person like, I've known this person. I've seen the real thing of this person before, and I can't quite place it because the shadow is blurry. Maybe the shadow's a little rounder than it used to be, you know? If you pick up what I'm laying down. And this guy who's standing there looking at me, he's like, "It's Gonzalez!" And I look at him and I'm like, "Gonzalez? Oh shit, it's a guy I went to high school with." And I was like, dude, Paul, he's like, yeah. I played baseball with this guy. And he's talking to me like, dude, I haven't seen you in forever. I go, yeah, I moved to San Diego. I've been gone for a while. So we get talking a little bit, and he's like, dude, you should come by tonight. I'm like, cool, man, where? Where? And he's like, bro, it's Friday night. I'm like, yeah, it is Friday night. He's like, dude, Friday night. I was like, yeah, man, Friday night. He starts laughing, and he's like, dude, you don't remember. When I was in high school, there's this guy, Mikey, Miguel, we called him Mikey. His mom was that mom who, it was okay if you drank at the house, as long as you only drank there. That way she knew you were safe. I don't know if any of you guys know a person like that. That was his mom. So of course, where did everybody spend Friday nights? At his house, yeah, drinking. So it turns out these guys have been doing that since high school. They've never stopped. Yeah, I moved away from them. And they still were meeting up at Mikey's house every Friday night drinking. So that's what he meant by, it's Friday night. Like, how could you not know? As these shadows are passing back and forth, how could you not know? Oh yeah, okay, cool. So you remember where he lives? I go, I do, I remember where he lives. Okay. And so, by the way, Mikey has 3 DUIs at this point, so last I heard. Yeah, exactly. His mom died of a massive heart attack, and then he inherited the house, which was all paid off, and he's a Pachanga Indian. So he gets a few thousand a month from the casino out there. So he doesn't really work, he has no mortgage, and so he just kind of like exists. He wanted to be a sheriff's officer, but he got 3 DUIs. And he's a big, fat, ugly thing, and he wanted to be a personal trainer, but he couldn't get himself into gyms, he drank too much, so yeah, that's Mikey. Anyway, I hope Mikey watches this video. So anyway, I ended up going there that night, and I'm an incredible introvert. I'm extremely shy by nature. I've mentioned this before. So I get there, and I'm sitting in the car, and I do what I oftentimes do at social gatherings. I sit in my car, and I'm like, they don't really need me there. They would never notice if I didn't go, right? I could just drive away. Paul will forget he ever saw me. It's fine, whatever. And then I'm like, no, but you should go. You're invited. And there's this constant fight. So finally, the go be social side wins. So I go to the house, and I open up, I walk in the front door, and as I'm approaching it, I can hear the music. It sounds just like I'm in high school again. It's Friday night again. And I approach the door. It's the same music, by the way, too. Same music as it was back then. And I walk into the door, and people just stop and turn. And I just hear, oh, fuck, it's Scanlon, dude! Dude, you look the same! And I'm looking at them, and I see many round shadows around the living room that do not look the same as I remember them from high school. But I can kind of gather from the faces who they are. And so I get to talking to them, and I go, fuck, what happened? Dude, yeah, Gonzalez told us you might be coming by, and it was wonderful. It was like high school all over again, which is tragic, by the way. And so as I get to talking to them, they're like, so, yeah, you said you live in San Diego now? I go, yeah, no, what do you do down there? And at the time I was here, and I was also a full-time professor over at Southwestern that way. And I was working both of these jobs full-time. It's a lot of teaching. And so I told them, and they're like, oh, you're a teacher? Don't you have to go to college and shit for that? And I said, yeah. You went to college? Where? And they're like, shocked. And I said, I went to UCLA. And they were all like, what the fuck? How? Like, you went there like as a custodian or something, right? You didn't go there as a student. No. I actually went there and studied and all that. And they were just like, how? And I just said, oh, I played baseball. Some way that they can understand, and now they can understand. So they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, and then as I'm talking to them, it came out that I also worked over at the college, and they were like a professor. I said, yeah, I'm a full-time professor. And he goes, don't you have to have like more degrees for that? I go, yeah. They go, what kind of degrees do you have? And I said, I've got 2 bachelors, 2 masters, and a PhD. And they were like, what the fuck? In what? They're like, oh, like, in what? I was like, I have a bachelor's in English literature with a specialization in Victorian literature and culture. I have another master's degree in philosophy. I did a specialization in political, ethical, moral theories. I did a master's degree in administration. I did a master's degree in psychology and philosophy. I did my PhD in philosophy, but it has a component for psychology as well with the California School of Professional Psychology. And then I go, Dr. Scanlon, what the fuck? And then they all start laughing and say, yeah. And it's great because they're like, but you're the guy who, and then they remind me of stories and things I did back in high school, which I'll spare you of. For. Those might be after graduation stories, some of them. And so he was like, but you're the guy who, I'm thinking of one particularly that has to do with Griffith Park. And they remind me of these stupid things I used to do. And I was like, yeah, I'm that guy who did all that. And they were laughing about it. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, because most of them, none of them had ever done anything very much. They mostly just kind of lived the life they had been living. And so, after a while, though, as the alcohol flowed, it became like, dude, how come you don't visit? So how come you don't visit anymore? Are you better than us? Do you think you're better than us now? Or like, you've moved beyond us, or you can't talk to us anymore? And it's like, oh, shit, that's not what it was. And I remember one time being asked by somebody, do you think you're better than me? And I remember saying to this person, I am, in certain key ways. Don't ever give that answer, even if it's true. It was some girl, and her mom asked me that. So that didn't last long. But it was true, but it doesn't get you very far in life. And so at one point I left, and I remember getting in my truck and thinking, I don't belong here anymore. Like, I've seen too much, I've done too much, that I just don't belong here anymore. And then the following Monday, we had a department meeting over at the college with the English department. And I was sitting there among all my colleagues, and I was thinking at the time, hearing them talk about them and knowing what I knew about their backgrounds and their pasts, I was thinking, I don't belong here either. I don't belong where I came from. I don't belong where I am. So now it becomes this question of, well, shit, then where do you belong? You know? And that's a question that if you guys seek enlightenment of any kind, you're going to have to answer that for yourself sometime. If you guys have enough experiences in life, you're going to have to find that out about yourself. Where do you fit in? Do you? Or do you not? It can become a very, very lonely place if you don't know how to make a way in that. And so you figure it out. You find a way, hopefully. Otherwise, you're alienated, isolated, and lonely for the rest of your life, which is not a place I would suggest that you end up, because that's the kind of thing that leads to resentment and contempt. There's something to be said about being able to exist with the people who stare at shadows and get along with them very well. There's also something to be said about hanging out with the people who are contemplating enlightenment as it truly is, the sun in its proper place. Which of those should you be? Yes. A complete person. Nothing less than a complete person makes a complete person. So maybe be both of those, if possible. But if you can't, you might not be able to. There's something to be said about putting our minds on eternal things rather than on temporal things. But that's a good call that you're going to have to make for yourself. So, anyway, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Yeah. Happy Monday.